Let's move into Vegetation and Wildlife, Part 2. And this part matters because the chapter now shifts from just knowing ecosystems to understanding protection. Most students treat this as a memory chapter. That is a mistake. This is really a classification chapter. If your categories are clean, the questions become easy. Let's begin with the economic angle. Farm forestry. The contrast is simple. On one side, you have a traditional wheat farm, which is basically monoculture, growing one crop repeatedly over a large area. On the other side, you have a farm forestry system, also called agroforestry. Agroforestry means agriculture and trees are combined on the same farm landscape. And the definition you must retain is this. Farmers grow trees on their farmlands for both commercial and non-commercial purposes. Commercial means timber, fuel wood, pulp, or income support. Non-commercial means shade, soil protection, fodder, windbreaks, and ecological stability. So this is not forest inside a farm in a casual sense. It is a planned transition from pure agriculture to a mixed production system. Now move from economics to the bigger issue. India's living heritage. India holds around 4 to 5% of the world's species. That is a huge biodiversity share for one country. But now, look at the warning side. About 10% of wild flora is threatened, and around 20% of mammals are threatened. That is the real conservation stake. So the chapter is not just about knowing species names. It is about recognizing that a significant part of our natural heritage is under pressure. And that is why classification, law, and protected areas all come in later. Now we decode the red list starting from the extremes. First, what is the IUCN Red List? It is a global system used to classify species by their risk of extinction. Now the first category shown here is normal species. Here, normal simply means the population level is still considered sufficient for survival. Examples given are cattle, sal, pine, and rodents. Then on the other side, you have endangered species. Endangered means the species is in danger of extinction if the negative factors continue. And the examples you must retain are black buck, crocodile, Indian rhino, lion-tailed macaque, and sangai. This is where most students make the first mistake. They think endangered means already almost gone. Not exactly. Endangered means extinction risk has become serious, but the species is still surviving and can still recover with strong protection. Now comes the category pair that causes the maximum confusion. Vulnerable versus rare. Let's separate them properly. A vulnerable species is one whose population has already declined, and if that trend continues, it may move into the endangered category. The examples given here are blue sheep and Asiatic elephant. A rare species is different. Rare means the species has a naturally small population. It is not necessarily declining fast, but because the population is already limited, it can become endangered if pressure increases. The examples here are hornbill and Himalayan brown bear. Lock the distinction exactly like this. Vulnerable equals declining trend. Rare equals small quantity. If you mix trend with quantity, you lose the question. Now another pair. Endemic versus extinct. An endemic species is found only in a specific restricted area, usually because natural barriers isolate it. So endemic is about limited location. The examples given here are Nicobar pigeon and mithun. Now compare that with extinct. Extinct means the species is no longer found even after searches. It has disappeared from the local area or from the world depending on context. The examples here are Asiatic cheetah and pink-headed duck. Most students hear endemic and think endangered. That is wrong. Endemic tells you where a species occurs. Extinct tells you it is gone. One is about location, the other is about loss. Now we move from classification to law. The Wildlife Protection Act. Before 1972, protection was mostly informal or cultural. Then came the watershed year, 1972. This is when the Wildlife Protection Act was enacted. Its two core purposes are clearly shown here. First, protection through scheduled lists, and second, giving legal support to parks and protected areas. Then came the 1991 amendment. That amendment made punishments stricter and also brought plants more clearly into the legal protection framework. And the institutional scale given here is worth remembering. 92 national parks and 492 wildlife sanctuaries. Do not study the act as a date only. Study it as the point where conservation shifted from sentiment to law. Now come the megafauna conservation projects. First, Project Tiger, launched in 1973. It began with 9 reserves, and the slide marks it as expanding to 27 plus later. It also gives a population contrast. 1,827 tigers in 1972, rising to 3,642 in 2002. That shows why tiger conservation became the flagship model. Then comes Project Elephant, launched in 1992. Its goal is to protect free-ranging elephant populations, and it is implemented in 13 states. Now the memory line here matters. There is a 20-year gap between the 1972 Act and 1992 Project Elephant. And the current conservation approach highlighted is important. Focus on landscape-level conservation and anti-poaching measures. That phrase is mainsworthy because elephants and tigers cannot be protected by fenced spots alone. Their movement landscapes matter. Now we move to biosphere reserves. And this concept must be understood properly. A biosphere reserve is not just another protected area label. It combines two ideas. One, protection of terrestrial or coastal ecosystems. And two, international recognition under the UNESCO Man and Biosphere Program or UNESCO MAB. Now the three-zone model is the core of the concept. The core zone is for strict protection. The buffer zone is for research and education. The transition zone is where human settlement and sustainable activity are allowed. That three-layer design is the real logic of biosphere reserves. Conservation with controlled human coexistence. And the figures you need to retain here are 18 biosphere reserves in India, though older texts may still mention 16. The UNESCO-recognized ones listed here are Nilgiri, Nanda Devi, Sundarbans, and Gulf of Mannar. Now let's map the reserves across India. This is where location memory matters. In the north, remember Coal Desert and Nanda Devi. In the west, the major example shown is the Run of Kutch. In central India, note Pachmari, Panna, and Achanakmar Amarkantak. In the east and northeast, the map marks Simlipal, Sundarban, Nokrek, Manas, Dibru Saikhova, Dihang Dibang, and Khangchen Zonga. In the south, the names you must hold are Seshachalam, Nilgiri, Agastyamalai, and Gulf of Mannar. And in the island region, remember Great Nicobar. Now, the real takeaway is not just the names, it is the geographical spread. These reserves run from the high Himalayas to the coastal and marine ecosystems. That span itself is a clue to India's ecological diversity. Now, the first detailed case, Nilgiri Biosphere Reserve. This is India's first biosphere reserve established in 1986, and the location trick is strong. It lies at the tri-junction of Tamil Nadu, Kerala, and Karnataka. That alone makes it a favorite map-based prelims point. The key species mentioned here are Nilgiri tar and lion-tailed macaque. And the vegetation range is also important. It runs from scrub to evergreen. So Nilgiri is not a single uniform forest block. It is ecologically diverse, which is exactly why it became the first biosphere reserve. Now move north to Nanda Devi Biosphere Reserve. It is located in Uttarakhand, specifically in the districts of Chamoli, Almora, and Pithoragarh as listed here. The ecosystem is marked as temperate forests. Its flora includes silverweed, orchids, and rhododendron. Its fauna includes snow leopard and Himalayan musk deer. And the major threats highlighted are poaching and medicinal plant collection. That last point matters. Many students think conservation threats are always about hunting alone. In mountain ecosystems, extraction of medicinal plants can be equally serious. Now to Sundarban's Biosphere Reserve. This is one of the most distinctive biosphere reserves in India. It is the largest mangrove forest and also the only mangrove tiger habitat in the world, located in the Ganga Delta in West Bengal. The key flora mentioned is Heritiera fomes, better known as the Sundari tree, which also has timber value. The fauna examples given here are cheetal, barking deer, and wild pig. And then comes the unique trait you should never forget: swimming tigers. That is linked to saline water adaptation. This is where geography and biology combine beautifully. Mangrove terrain shapes the behavior of the animal itself. Now the marine example. Gulf of Mannar Biosphere Reserve. This is a marine biodiversity hotspot on the southeast coast of India. The biodiversity figure given here is huge: 3,600 plus species. The reserve includes 21 islands and coastal habitats, and it is known for rich coral reef ecosystems. The flora point given here is also important. 6 mangrove species endemic to peninsular India are associated with this region. And the star species you must remember is the dugong, also called the sea cow, marked here as globally endangered. This reserve is important because it reminds you that biodiversity protection in India is not only terrestrial. Marine ecosystems are equally central. Now let's close with the hierarchy of protection. At the species level, remember the IUCN Red List, especially the difference between vulnerable and rare. At the legal level, remember the Wildlife Protection Act 1972, along with major projects like Project Tiger 1973 and Project Elephant 1992. And at the landscape level, remember biosphere reserves under the Man and Biosphere program. This is the structure you should carry into the exam: species classification, legal protection, landscape conservation. That is the full pyramid. And once that pyramid is clear, this chapter stops feeling scattered and you are exam ready.